Morning, welcome to This Day That Year, and we are live and we are going to bring some important historic events that happened today. Today is October 7th, so let us find out what has happened on this day today. Well, friends, the first information is regarding Christopher Columbus. And Christopher Columbus convinced the Queen of Spain, even though he was a Portuguese guy, and that he will find a sea route from the west, not from the east, sea route to India. So, because the assumption was that Earth is like a globe, and so if you travel on the west, you will eventually reach India. And the Queen of Spain was so impressed with his proposal that she funded the entire all the journeys of Christopher Columbus. However, Christopher Columbus never reached the Americas because he ended up discovering Americas, which was called New World, and the natives of the American continents, which is North and South, they were named as Red Indians by Christopher Columbus. But he never reached the mainland. He got entangled, all his journey got entangled near Bahamas and the neighboring islands. And on his third attempt, when he was about to reach Florida, which is the mainland Americas, suddenly on October 7th in the year 1492, he actually changed course and then ended up reaching Costa Rica in South America. So he never reached the North America in his life, and he ended up on his last trip to Americas. He ended up reaching Costa Rica, which is in the South Americas. So this is something which he himself did by changing the course at the last moment on October 7th. Okay, let's move to the next one. Well, this is about a very important incident which some people say has saved the Europe from the Islamic invaders. We all know that the Ottomans were very powerful, and they also innovated in terms of warfare. The Ottomans basically had probably the first army to have the artillery in their army, and they used as a weapon to penetrate the enemy lines, and they were the first one. So there was no answer for artillery at this point at that time. So that is why Ottomans were very successful in conquering different lands, etc., and then converting the subjects into Islam. So this was their modus operandi, and the biggest example is the current day Turkey, which was basically a Roman state conquered by Ottomans, and then everybody was converted into Islam. So people were very concerned about this, and then finally Ottomans' hegemony or the Ottomans' lead was destroyed in a battle called Battle of Lepanto near Greece in the year 1571, where all the European powers combined, sort of an allies during the Second World War. So they also did that. All the southern European countries, they combined their army, and then they stopped the onslaught of Ottoman navy as well as army, and they inflicted significant damage to the Ottoman fleet on October 7th 1571, and they destroyed all dreams of Ottomans to conquer rest of the Europe after Turkey. So this is a very important day, and some people say that this was a very decisive battle which was eventually ended up defeating Ottomans for the first time on October 7th 1571. Let's move to the next one. Well, this is about Netherlands, and believe it or not, the administration in 1714 on October 7th declared that there has to be a tax on beer. Probably people were drinking a lot of beer at that time. So administration at that time thought it is best to tax the beer. And against this diktat, the people of Netherlands went on a riot and against the administration. So you can imagine, beer or liquor can be so important for people, because for your beer you are willing to go on riot and rampage and destroy certain public properties. So this happened on 1714 in the Netherlands on October 7th. Let's move to the next one. Well, some not so good news about Calcutta from India. Calcutta used to be the British capital, and they called it Calcutta. Now the same city has been renamed to its original name, that is Kolkata. So in the 1737, the Calcutta city was rampaged by huge waves. So we do not know whether these were tsunami waves or these were the waves created by cyclone normal waves, but these were huge waves which hit Calcutta city, and estimated height of these waves were 40 foot. So these are humongous waves, and a lot of water would have rushed into the city. Estimate fatality on that day, which is October 7th, 1737, were 300,000. A major catastrophe. I mean, it is similar to what happened in Indonesia during the tsunami in the last decade, where roughly about 300,000 people died. Similar number of people died in just one city in 1737 on October 7th because of this natural calamity. Let's move to the next one. Well, this is about Spain, and like a lot of North European settlers were settling down in US and Canada. They were actually forming their cities and colonies, and they were trying to combine themselves as a nation. Spain, on the other hand, had conquered huge territories in the Latin American region and the South American region. And today, the entire region, which is Latin America, starting from Mexico to down south, everybody speaks Spanish. And even in Philippines, people speak Spanish, with one exception, which is the Brazil. That country, people in that country speak Portuguese, because that was the only Portuguese colony in the South America. So everything was conquered by Spain, and they were also indulging in the slave trade, just like everybody else during that time. And then on the slave trade, there was a civil war in the USA, United States, led by President Abraham Lincoln. And then Abraham Lincoln, this was a civil war, so the country was divided. Eventually, Abraham Lincoln united the country once again and abolished slavery after the end of the Civil War. However, few years after that, Spain also abolished slavery in Cuba. Why Cuba? Because Cuba used to be sort of a midway for the slave trade, where the slaves were rounded up in Africa, put it on board, brought to Americas for selling as a human trafficking, and Cuba used to be in the middle. So there was a lot of slaves also brought into Cuba, and then Spain in the year 1886 on October 7th finally abolished all kinds of slavery. That means trade of humans were abolished in Cuba. All right, let's move to the next one. Well, many people may not be aware about the history of airlines, because this is very interesting. And if I ask you which is the oldest airlines, most likely even most learned people will not know. But let me break that to you. KLM, which is considered one of the top airlines in the world today, purely on the basis of passenger comfort and facilities. KLM is supposed to be one of the most expensive airlines also. So if you are flying KLM, you will get the best treatment that the airlines can give you. So that is some of the features of the KLM, which is far better than any other airlines. However, KLM is also the oldest airline in the world. This was established as Royal Dutch Airlines in the year 1919 on October 7th, today. And that makes the KLM more than 100 years old airlines, because we are in 2022. And I think this makes KLM Airlines roughly about 103 years old, the oldest in the world. So it's a good trivia for you to remember. And if somebody asks you which is the oldest airlines in the world, you must remember KLM. All right, let's move to the next one. Well, there was a Jewish problem, and there was a German nationalization, or the Nazification, which was going on. And because the German Nazi ideology was based on the Aryan race. And surprisingly, Germans were not the pure Aryans, because where the Aryans evolved is basically from India, and then they traveled towards Europe. So German basically was telling their people that the Aryans basically evolved out of Germany or European countries. So this theory was debunked later, and by Germans themselves, German scholars themselves. But the political dispensation led by Hitler continued on that propaganda because of the political reasons, and they were dead against Jewish, and they called Jewish people as Jewish problem. So in 1938, on October 7th, they brought out a draconian law, and which made all Jewish German people compulsory to get a J stamped in their passports. So that will show that, if they're traveling out, that this guy, although he speaks German and his name is also German, but he's actually Jew. So they made sure, even before the start of the war, they made sure that the Jews in their country are identified, and all the Jews people passport was stamped with alphabet J. Unfortunate incident that happened on October 7th, 1938. Let's move to the next one. Well, again, as I said, we cannot complete our daily show, without talking about Second World War, because Second World War was a big war, created so many events on almost every day. So I would like to tell you about Field Marshal Erwin Rommel. He was a German field marshal, very well respected by the German army, battle hardened from First World War, and a great leader. He was also nicknamed as the Desert Fox, because he was actually fighting the Allied forces in North Africa. Believe it or not, the battle theater for Field Marshal Erwin Rommel was North America, where current day Libya, Egypt, that is where the fight was going on between German forces and Allies, and he was fighting and winning over Allies, and that is why he was called the Desert Fox, because he was very strategic in his mind, and he was also respected by his fellow soldiers. Even back in Germany, he was very well respected, and he was one of the senior guy in the army. And he was also a nationalist. I mean, that is the biggest point I would like to drive here. He was a hero, German hero, and he was not in favor of what the political class dispensation was doing at that time. He was not in favor of, he was not in good books of Hitler. So finally, in 1944, October 7th, he was ordered back from North Africa to Germany, which he did. And after a few days, he was found dead, or he was actually dead while traveling from his home to the army headquarters, accompanied by SS men, and in the car he died. And official record says that he died of stroke, but everybody knows what would have happened, because he was not in favor of making certain compromises which were not in favor of the political or the ruling class of Nazi Germany. So again, an unfortunate incident where a nationalist, a war hero, was kind of sacrificed by some bad people. On October 7th, 1944, he was ordered back to report back to Germany. All right, let's move to the next one. Well, this is about moon. We all know that moon is tidally locked with Earth. Earth goes around in certain time, like 24 hours. Similarly, moon is roughly about 300,000 kilometers away from Earth, and because of this motion of Earth and moon combination, the tidal effects causes on the moon. And since moon is a smaller body and it is tidally locked with Earth, it goes around the Earth in exactly 27 to 28 days. And because of this motion, peculiar motion, only one side of the moon is visible to humans, because during the day you can't see moon, and during the night you see moon, and then you see only one side of the moon. So people used to say that the other side is not visible, so it was nicknamed as the dark side. However, Russians were the first one to take first picture of the other side. So when they say dark side, it's nothing dark about it. It's simply that it is not visible from Earth, and you need to send a probe to examine the other side, because moon is tidally locked. So Russian Luna mission was the first one to go around moon, and Luna 3 took this picture, which was the first picture of the other side of the moon. And this picture was taken on October 7th, 1959. So friends, we had many important incidents that happened on October 7th, and I told you about few of the important ones. If you have any suggestions, feel free to send in your comments. And for today, I'd like to take your leave, only to catch you on Monday next week with this day, that year. Have a nice weekend, and bye bye.